Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulil Kareem. I often query that why my success should come at someone's failure, or why would my success mean that someone must lose. There has to be a way where we all can win, and because this goes against the established thinking and psychology, therefore it needs a paradigm shift. We can work together, keeping our differences aside to defeat our common adversaries. The change that I refer to calls for cooperation, trust, and mutual advantage rather than competition or conflict. We started this exercise in 2007 with few participants. Our message got wider acceptance and the participants steadily grew. Despite countless sacrifices and losses, Pakistan continues to be a responsible state. Pakistan has been the largest regional contributor to these constructs in terms of men and material. The exercise Aman, which literally means peace, is a step towards making that cooperation a reality.
Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News special show and I'm Faisal Rahman from our Islamabad studios. Today the program is not about politics or neither about economy or any other subject, though it is very interesting. This is about Navy, their exercise. As we all know that one of the very senior naval officer once told me that Pakistan has 5 provinces. Would you like to name them? And I said, yeah, well, we have Punjab, we have Balochistan, we have KP and then Sindh. And I thought maybe I should also add Gilgit-Baltistan because the elections were held there as well and the status was given. He said no. The 4th is the sea, the area which we have there. It's bigger than most of the largest province. And interestingly, the kind of economic activity that you can generate through that area is unbelievable. At that time, the person told me that only regarding fisheries, you can export the seafood worth $2.5 billion annually. Just imagine by adding or subtracting a few. But what I'm saying is that look at the potential. And obviously when we talk about the latest trends which we are witnessing these days, you talk about Gwadar becoming the deepest seaport and is going to be the major hub for economic activity, not only for Pakistan, for this entire region. So you can well imagine where Pakistan is placed at the moment. You talk about the naval strength. I think though it's compact, but it's brilliant. I think it's the man behind the gun that matters the most. The training, the kind of courses they go through, the kind of physical fitness standards which Pakistan Navy has maintained, whether you talk about their commandos or you talk about the Marines for that matter, I think one of the best in the world. Now, in 2007, Pakistan took this initiative to have a huge, or rather there should be some sort of a collision or some sort of a consortium of various countries, and their naval assets should work together according to the needs and the desires of that particular strategic location. So in which a lot of Muslim countries participated, USA participated, UK participated, China participated, you name it. And all the major regional countries and even the Western countries also came and joined, and they were a part of that exercise. Now again, it is about to start. It's going to take about a week or something of that sort. But what exactly is going to happen? What is the significance of this particular exercise? What is the importance? What are the major areas? What do they, when I say they, means the decision makers at the top, what do they have in their mind when they sort of give a go-ahead to such a huge exercise? And what are the areas where they conduct? What exactly happens? Today we'll be talking about that. And let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us On my right is Rear Admiral Mozam Ilyas Saab. He's a senior officer of Pakistan Navy. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time and being a part of our show. And next to Rear Admiral Mozam Ilyas, we have Dr. Malia Zeba Khan Saiba. Dr. Saiba, she is a PhD in Maritime Affairs. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time as well. But Admiral Saab, let me start off from you. You know, I went through these 2 pages, and interestingly, I mean, you have been able to conduct 7 huge mega exercises so far since 2007. And look at the number of countries you were able to engage. And I'm sure that site must be worth it, sir, where so many battleships are working together, and, you know, some sort of an arrangement is made to look after the piracy side, or maybe some other threats which possess as we speak, maybe terrorism at the same time. The importance and the need of this exercise, sir. What was the idea behind it? Let me start off from there.
Well, I think, first of all, Assalamu alaikum. And what I would like to mention here is that Pakistan Navy has always been a very avid supporter of the regional peace. We derive this strength and this lead from our constitution, which says the peaceful coexistence in the region. And that is why we always opted to cooperate with the other countries in maintaining security and law and order in the maritime domain. And as you said in the introduction, maritime domain for Pakistan is very vast. We have an area of 240,000 square kilometers of exclusive economic zone, which is filled and which is replete with mineral resources, fisheries, sea life, and other things that we can exploit for the benefit of Pakistan.
Minerals could be there, because I remember there was this very interesting sight to see when there was this kind of a mountain came out, a little, you know, or maybe, I don't know what you call that, but and people, you know, started throwing the matchsticks and started burning. Maybe
Yeah,
lot of energy resources. You never know.
In fact, the area all along the Makran coast, on the coast close to the Balochistan shores, we have enormous gas reserves out in the sea. And whenever they pop up, they bring out that mud from within the seabed, and that normally forms into an island, lasts for you know, some period of time and then goes back. But it is because of the enormous gas reserves that we have in that area. Having said that, you know, we in 2007 decided to start this Aman exercise, and as the name speaks for itself, Aman is peace. We wanted to have peace along with the other regional and extra-regional navies, all of them having stake in this particular region, which was very important, which is and which will continue to be a very important region for the international trade, because out from Strait of Hormuz flows millions of barrels of oil almost every day. There are tankers which are coming in the Strait of Hormuz and leaving that place, heading for their respective countries. But we have to have a proper secure environment for these ships to operate. So in order to provide that regional security, we started to cooperate with the other navies as well. We brought them together on one common platform. We wanted to you know, project the softer image of Pakistan at one end, while we also wanted that the exercise, which will basically be aimed at creating awareness about maritime security threat environments, as well as the challenges that we face while operating together in the interoperability domain, as well as
I think that is very important.
That's right, interoperability, because most of the navies, they operate with their own SOPs and procedures. When they have to operate together, they have to know exactly what procedures to follow. And that is where we started off with this exercise Aman 2007.
So this was the primary idea.
Primary idea.
But I mean, from 2007 till all the way after 14 years, I think I just went through the number of countries who participated.
That's right.
I mean, you talk about Italy, China, Australia, Malaysia, Oman, Sri Lanka, USA, UK, I mean, Turkey. This is a long list. I mean, so how come this became such a success story?
It's primarily because of the initiative that we took. The initiative was to bring them together on a common platform. And if you talk of the last 2 decades, this was the area that maritime domain came out and emerged as a very important domain. If you see the land frontiers, land borders, where a lot of activity was taking place in these past 2 decades, there was a realization that maritime domain played a very important role in order to ensure peace and stability on land. So only until and unless you ensure security in the maritime domain, the land borders wouldn't be secure. And that is where the countries joined hands with us when we initiated this Aman exercise.
No wonder the US controls all the oceans.
That's right.
Maybe that's the reason. They're everywhere. Plus, on top, sir, as they say, because if you look at the geographic location, or rather the strategic location of Pakistan, right at the mouth of the Arabian Sea. And interestingly, when you see the trade passing through, or that would definitely generate a lot of economic opportunities as well, that could really lead to huge employment and so on and so forth. Now the point is, ma'am, over here, when we talk about let's say the current situation regarding the tension between Iran and Saudi Arabia, or perhaps whatever is going on in Yemen, and especially in the region, because we learned that the American ships were there, and things were not that conducive. Everybody was thinking anything can happen. The oil prices were fluctuating. The dollar and the international currencies, they were not being controlled properly. But what happened was nothing happened at the end of the day because of the sensitivity of this area. Ma'am, let's talk about that. The Strait of Hormuz, we always talk about that, any given date can be choked, and this could result into this. The entire global economy is going to get jammed. What if something else happens in the region? Because you look at the number of countries and their, I would say, their own interests. We have convergence with a few, we have divergence with a lot, I guess.
Thank you very much. Before addressing your question, allow me to add few points to the background which Muazzam Sahab has
Please,
given.
sure, go ahead.
Because sea is not only a body of water. Sea has different meanings attached to it. When we talk about the sea, the territorial waters or territorial sea is only about 12 nautical miles. Beyond those 12 nautical miles, there is international water. You give it a name of exclusive economic zone before exclusive economic zone, and right after your territorial waters, contiguous zone is there, and which is added in exclusive economic zone, then continental shelf comes. But all of these waters beyond your territorial waters are international
These
waters.
are like different spheres,
Yes.
like the ones we
These
have
are different
in space.
parts of water. Because these are international waters, that means that Pakistan or any other state which has its exclusive economic zone or continental shelf, they have partial jurisdiction. That means that we have certain responsibilities in those areas along with some rights. When we talk about maritime domain and all these parts and waters being territorial, not being territorial waters but international waters, in that case we have to deal with several other issues. Maritime security is not a very limited area of discussion here, because maritime security is not about securing maritime domain from one enemy. There is not only one enemy or one external pressure or interference, but these threats are coming from pirates, these threats are coming from other organized criminal groups, other mafias are there, and several other activities are happening in these waters. This is why we have to maintain right sort of security and order in that domain. And whenever we look at the nature of activities which are going on in maritime domain, the most important activity is global flows.
And what is that supposed to mean, ma'am?
Global flows are the flows which move across the globe. They include your trade, energy resources, your technology, economy, information, migrations and even your culture, everything that is part of global flows. And even the ocean itself is a global
Even the
common.
birds who migrate from Siberia all the way down, because they are also a part of the ecosystem.
Yes,
So they are also considered.
They are also considered part of global
the
flow.
cases with
That
the-
global flow is environmental global flow basically. So we have different kind of activities going on within the maritime domain. And whenever we talk about the role of different countries and the trade which is going on in these regions, that is quite important to focus on that area. When we look at the activities, so the prime activity which goes through this area, this maritime domain, that is the trade, the global trade, and that is quite interesting that more than 80% of energy resources, they are moving through Indian Ocean, and especially Western Indian Ocean, which is quite important due
all the way to Japan, to
yes,
China,
everywhere.
and then the Malacca area comes
Yes,
in. And
from
so,
Indian Ocean to Atlantic and from Indian Ocean to Pacific, and even across these oceans. This global flow of trade and energy, that is quite important, and all this volume which goes through this Western Indian Ocean is important because when we talk in this term, we see that there are several actors which are here. These actors are state actors as well as non-state actors. Regional actors and extra-regional actors all are active in this area. You name, and they would be there from all the great powers, starting from the
ma'am, as
USA.
they say that whosoever controls the Indian Ocean controls the world. Simple as that. I think it was a Chinese philosopher, if I'm not wrong. But now coming back to the current scenario, sir. Pakistan itself, Pakistan is a defensive force. Even our Navy is defensive. In certain cases, yes, offense is also much needed. But if you compare it with your enemy, especially when we talk about India, over here, sir, you are dealing with modern machines. You're dealing with countries which have much better navy than Pakistan, modern equipment, top of the line assets, I would say. UK, USA, China, Italy, I mean, other than the Far Eastern countries or the Muslim countries for that matter. So, sir, I'm sure there is a lot of learning opportunities also. I mean, if there's a learning opportunity, you get to learn and you get to teach at the same time. Over here, sir, what have we learned so far? Is it about the drill, goodwill, I understand. It's about keeping, all the concerned in contact and having a great relationship, and also seeing how the others operate and what do we need to learn from them, and so on and so forth, sir. So how different is the chemistry when it comes to it, sir? There must be language hurdles and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think we must always keep the objectives of the exercise in mind. The objective of the exercise that we kept in mind or laid down for all the participants were to ensure that we create a response, tactics, and procedures in order to combat any threat out at sea. Now there are procedures and SOPs which are different with every navy. There are access to technology which is different for US Navy as compared to Pakistan Navy, and different for Pakistan Navy as compared to Bangladesh Navy. So we wanted actually through this exercise to bring them together on one common platform, one common understanding, so that the enemy, which is common for all these countries, all these states in the maritime domain, that can be combated with a coordinated response, with a coordinated approach, and that is where what we tried to learn and to teach was basically a mutual understanding of the threat as well as response. And because I have been involved with this exercise for a number of years in the past in my career, I can tell you that every time that we
And have you seen the graph going up constantly?
Definitely. I think when we started with the participation from 28 international members. We are now to a number of over 40 countries which will be coming and participating.
40 different countries. Okay.
40 different countries.
Along with their assets, vessels and everything.
Along with their assets, some of them coming only with observers, because not many countries.
29 were observers, if I'm not wrong.
That is right. That is right.
So
29.
what is the role of the observer as compared to the one who is actively involved?
You see, the ships which are participating in the exercise, they are participating with their active support. They are participating in all the harbor phase exercises and tabletop discussions and exercises,
different
preparations. Sorry?
They have different assignments?
They have different assignments.
Okay.
While observers, they are basically just participants. They come and observe all the details of the exercise, all the procedures involved in the exercise, and then they go back to their countries to recommend to them that they need to participate with their assets next year.
Sir, how many observers have turned out to become regular members
Well, I think
over the last, let's say, 14 years?
I can't give you a figure right away,
But
but I
roughly.
think about 15 of them, 15 different countries, they have come. Initially, they participated with their observers.
Okay.
Now they are coming and participating with their assets.
And persuading the rest of these their
Absolutely.
neighbors and
Actually,
all?
they realize the importance of this exercise. They realize that it accrues a lot of benefits to come and participate with the ships, with their assets, with their special operations teams, forces, which are commandos, commonly called. With their
And those commandos, do they conduct, like recently the commandos of Russia, they were over in Pakistan. For certain exercises, they were over here for a month or so. And it was great to see and to learn the kind of tactics, the kind of maneuvers, use of the weapons, and and so much more. I think learning to be patient, I think that is also great. Is it some sort of a course of Navy on similar grounds that is being conducted there as well, sir?
Well, absolutely. I think you have really made the point. The main thing that we learn from or we gather from the exercise is the difference of procedures from our SOF, as far as SOF operations are concerned or operations at sea are concerned. We pick up and find those difference of procedures and then streamline the response tactics while operating as a combined task force. So that is also the essence and objective of the exercise.
All right.
In order to be able to find a common ground, as I said. You mentioned about the Russian Special Operation Forces. I can endorse that Russia this time is going to participate in this exercise with their assets and with their SOF teams both.
And this is the first time.
Yeah,
This
that's
is the
right.
first time.
This is the
This
first
is
time.
the first time the Russian
That
ships
Russia
would
is
be in the
taking-
warm
yes,
waters,
Russia is
for
taking
which
part
they
in any naval
dreamed for a very
exercise.
long time, I guess.
Russia has been a regular visitor to Pakistan in the past, I would say about 5 years. And they have sent their ships and their people to come to visit Karachi. However, Aman exercise, participation of Russian Navy and their assets will be probably the first time. So what you can I would like the people and listeners to know is this will be a forum where the US Navy and Russian Navy both will be
Chinese.
together. The Chinese Navy will be there, of course. So it's a forum that is to bridge gaps between different countries, different states.
Amazing.
They come and operate together for one common purpose, that is to ensure our response towards the common enemy.
So
out at
one
sea.
quick comment from you, and then I'll go to the lady. I was just thinking while I was talking to you that, for example, if you're flying a 747 and suddenly you get to know that engine number 3 is on fire, and there are certain SOPs you need to follow immediately.
Exactly.
You switch off the fire through
Extinguishers. and
extinguishing, and there are a lot of other SOPs as well. But what I'm saying is, sir, in Navy, for example, if the scenario says that, okay, there is a ship which has been hit by a Tomahawk or something of that sort, and now the ship is on fire and there are about 80 people on board. So the SOPs which Pakistan will undertake, the Russians would do the same or the Chinese would do the same. I mean, this is going to be an amazing learning part, that how do they deal in such a state or in such a chaos?
Well, I think very interesting question, and I would tell you that some of the SOPs are common in all the navies. For example, firefighting or fire is a very big hazard on board ship, because ship carries a lot of
Because
fuel.
there's a huge logbook in the hand of a
That's
PIA
right.
pilot that if this goes wrong, you need to follow these procedures. Everybody's going to go through the same.
Absolutely.
Does it happen the same way in Navy also?
Exactly, it
Okay.
happens the same way, because as I said that there are 2 or 3 very big enemies for any ship which is operating at sea. Fire is one, because there are fuel tanks, because on a warship you carry a lot of ammunition and explosives.
This is the active fire, sir, which takes place?
Active fire can take place on board any particular ship while out at sea. It could be an electric fire, it could be a solid fire, it could be a mistake of any. So there are tactics, there are procedures, very standard in their nature.
And their practices also, they do it and then they...
We do it almost every day.
Okay.
And there could be an officer like you or me who could try and practice his team thrice a day, how to fight a fire.
There is a
how to
siren
look
and suddenly go out.
and certainly we go out to sea. Yeah, certainly everybody is out. And the second thing is flooding. And if there is a flooding in a ship, there are procedures in order to control that flooding, because you don't want
If
the buoyancy.
if a ship is not hit, still it can get flooded?
It can get flooded because of any unidentified or any unlocated object
Maybe
deep
a
in the
rock
water.
or something?
Generally we avoid rocks through an active navigation.
Because we civilians, we always look at it from the Titanic's point of view, sir.
No, yeah, but we don't have icebergs like Titanic hit one. We don't have that icebergs in our.
They are facing.
So,
anyway.
yeah, the point was that we have those doctrines on some of the doctrines on which we are dogmatic in their following. Yet there are procedures in which we improve continuously.
Okay.
In order to cater for the technological advancements, in order to cater for different nature of threats that come up. So procedures they revise. But in Navy, we are as dogmatic as a pilot of 747 in handling of emergencies, and they are exactly on our fingertips, most of them. But what we recommend every naval officer is to keep a book with him and consult those SOPs and the checklist every time there is an emergency to hand. We are operating with the foreign navies. These are the things that we practice very frequently in order to know what procedures have they adopted or they have evolved, so that we can improve and evolve.
Normally,
our own
do they,
systems.
I mean, for example, like China or Russia or USA, if they're working together, do they, in fact, end up showing their secrets also that, or no? Or there is a limitation to a
Generally,
certain level?
Generally, no. It doesn't happen
Generally,
that way. You will probably see a naval officer much mature as compared to the force officers, only because right from the start, even as a sub-lieutenant, he is operating in waters which ma'am also called international waters. International waters, you get to interact with the international navies almost on a daily basis.
The element of hostility isn't there, ma'am.
Generally, no.
Not much.
Not much.
Not like what happens on LOC.
Well, if you talk about the eastern side, then the element of hostility is definitely there. And it happens at sea that if you come across an Indian ship, you certainly your level of blood pressure that rises, and you.
It was risen, but interestingly, you guys were really cool.
We normally try and control. Yeah, that's right.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, because I think that hats off to the Pakistan Navy. I mean, they could have, they didn't. That's what's maturity, and I think that's what responsibility is all about. Now, ma'am, I think I should put this question for both of you. Yours would be in a different perspective. Admiral Saab's would be in a different perspective. Ma'am, when we talk about the SWOT analysis, the strengths and the weaknesses and the threats and the opportunities, I'm sure, sir, this is the major paradigm, and the area in which you learn. And at the same time, ma'am, as a civilian for that matter, you have a different approach. You have a different, I would say, you have a different lens to look at things. I mean, their prism is different than yours. So, ma'am, when you go, what are your areas of interest, and how do you see, and what sort of reports do you generate? And let's tell us about that.
Are you talking about Aman exercise?
Yeah, ma'am. Aman, or for that
overall maritime
matter,
domain?
as an observer,
Right.
if you have to look at it, very minutely, and you have to come up that last time XYZ ship crew did amazingly well, this year they were slow, and then you diagnose what's the reason. I mean,
Right.
does it happen that way?
That is
because I
quite-
think, ma'am, Navy is one area, especially the submarine side should be at the top, where because it's totally unnatural. Humans are not made to fly Humans were never made to be underwater. So that definitely, it brings a lot of changes in your system, in your body, in your mind. I mean, your decision-making process gets disturbed. I mean, there's so many areas, you need to look into. So in that particular regard, ma'am, let's throw light on that.
That is quite interesting question. And the lens, what I would use, that would obviously be a lens which could be used by someone who is working on international relations or foreign affairs or maritime affairs. What I see by these exercises or whatever is going on in the sea, that would be interaction between the states. How are they behaving with each other? In certain environment, what would be their reaction?
Okay.
So this is what is important for me. Like if I talk about Aman exercise, what I see in this exercise that is that can be called as confidence building measure. Basically, to me, this is a major CBM, because this is the first time when we are seeing that Russia is in this region along with NATO forces, the countries which are part of NATO, and they are conducting exercises. This is happening for the very first time, and especially when Russia has made its naval base in Sudan. That is a big move, that we are seeing Russia as someone which was extra regional actor, but now it is becoming
a global
actor.
The cases with China, they're expanding their interest.
Yes, they are expanding their interest.
As we say, ma'am, it's unipolar world.
Yes,
it's a multipolar world,
yes,
not even bipolar.
This is not even multipolar. I would call that this is a world with multilateral approaches. You are seeing different approaches active at the same time. You cannot restrict one state to one act. If we talk about the countries which have divergent interests, we are seeing them coming on some peaceful manner, and they are coming up, especially when we talk about Aman exercise. I always call it that this is a collaborative measure. Because in collaborative exercises, we do not find anything which is based on confrontation or things which can be called offensive for any other country. If USA is there, China is there, Russia is there, if Italy is there, France is there, along with the regional actors. I'm not sure about India this time, but we have several actors in this exercise. So if they are coming up on one forum, on one platform, and they are working together in one area or the other area, whatever is their choice, they are free to move in that area. This is the beauty of collaborative exercises.
Female members also come? Female officers from other countries?
Yes.
Because we have female officers in our Navy as well.
Yes, they have come. They have been coming. Yes, they have been coming. And they are part of the exercise.
All right. All right. Now, so quick comment on another very important point. And that is about, when we talk about the regional security, the regional peace element, obviously, we've been doing so much in Afghanistan to bring in peace, but unfortunately, if one thing goes right, there are two against that particular decision, unfortunately. Obviously, there are non-state actors after that. But sir, when we talk about Navy is just not all about ships making certain maneuvers or having a strategy to counter the enemy or whatever. Your Air Force, helicopters, whether Sea Kings or otherwise, you have got helicopters which can hit the submarines. You've recently got them as well. And then you have got a great force like commandos for that matter, and we have seen them crossing from one ship to another, especially those posters of Navy and those calendars of Navy. They used to fascinate us so much. We used to see that oh, look at this man. Obviously, a lot more is being done as well now as we speak. But sir, when you talk about the engagement of air defense for that matter, or Air Force also to some, because that is a part of the deal. These navies, do they have I'm not saying that any aircraft carrier would be a part of this entire deal, but at least their Air Force or their Navy could be a part of this deal, sir. Yeah. Something of that sort, sir, would you like to tell?
Yeah, definitely. You talked about the posters which depict Navy and kind of convince people to join Navy.
Yeah.
You might have read one more, caption in that, that Navy is a four-dimensional force. And when we say four-dimensional force, this includes the sea, under the sea, air, and land. So those are the four dimensions that we talk about. Air has a very important role to play. If you go back into the history, you will realize that many of the navies who did not cater for or who did not defend themselves against an air threat did go down in the history. They never survived. But I'll come back to Pakistan Navy in particular and the Aman exercise in particular. But for a ship which is operating at sea, it has to be capable of responding to threats in all these four domains. Should be able to engage a target out on land, in the air, underwater, and of course surface.
Navy also provides you second strike capabilities, sir.
Of course.
I mean,
sir.
such a blessing. And then, sir, on top, when you talk about the stealth technology, we have heard that in F-22 Raptor or maybe in F-35 or other bombers which the Americans have. And then the Chinese, they have made it. Russians, they claim they have made it. Sir, stealth boats I've seen, the Americans, I mean, they have made these. They're top of the art, sir. One of the best in the world, I would say. But sir, are we also moving in that direction? Because we've heard that we are getting some from Turkey and some from China, and the ones which are coming from China would be stealth, or maybe somewhat close to stealth.
Sure. I think
what sort of a difference does that make? Because when you talk about the plane, it's in the air, there could be a height, but ship is there, it can't go underwater. So how a ship could be a stealth?
Well, there are tactics to conceal the presence of a ship in case there is a tracking radar which is tracking it, or there is a surveillance radar which is carrying out surveillance. So there are techniques to make your ship invisible or do some kind of stealth techniques against those radars. But stealth is a technology that is very latest. It is being employed on the naval platforms as much as it is being employed in the aircraft. So you see the ships with the stealth design, which are totally receptive of the electromagnetic energy that comes from a radar. That could be a surface search radar or a tracking radar. The ship can be
it can
divert that. But so is the technology in the air as well. So for a ship which is out at sea, the air defense part, the earlier question that you asked, I think the ship has to be very good in detecting an incoming air threat. And there are number of ways through which we can detect an activity. It could be monitoring of the electromagnetic spectrum. It could be monitoring of a practical physical presence of an aircraft through radars, through the electronic warfare suites. So that is what we do out at sea. And the same, as I said, is also practiced in this Aman exercise as well, where the ships, they come with their different technologies. We exploit and we use those technologies to share the pictures of these particular ships, make a common operating picture on board a command ship, and then try and defend against those threats.
All right. So last quick comment, because after this I'll have to wrap it up. Now, when we talk about you like, for example, this contract, strategic contract signed between USA and India, BICA. Yeah. And other than that, I mean, the kind of engagement they have regarding the sharing of the bases, intelligence sharing, and so on and so forth. They're ready to sell them 114 jets, could be F-15s, could be other jets. But what I'm saying is, sir, that Navy holds the key. And one quick comment, sir, and that is about the drones. What sort of a role? Because I read a story that more than 200 high-tech drones would be given to the Indian forces, and that would be used to do the surveillance in the Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean. Now, that is one of the top technologies, sir. How to counter that now? This is a new product, I would say.
I agree. I totally agree with you. Drones are a new domain in the warfare. And probably the future of the warfare also falls and is prey to drones.
All right.
Yeah. So, but Pakistan Navy has embarked upon a very methodical way to confront this particular threat. And we are inducting new weapons and systems, defensive, of course, in their nature. But having said that, I must also emphasize that sea and oceans are very large in their character. Drones have a particular range. They can't go and surveil every.
But they're lethal.
Yeah, they are.
But
they
you
are.
never know, sir. In another 5 years' time, nobody knows what will happen because the way technology is changing and the innovation is taking place, it's unbelievable. But anyway, ma'am, it was a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you so much for your
Likewise.
presence as well.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you, inshallah, again. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.